Hello, welcome back to my channel, where today I'll be showing you how I made this adorable t-shirt out of an upcycled pair of trousers. So I've had these pajama trousers since I was about 13, I think, and I really like the fabric, but I don't really like the fit, and recently the ties broke on them, so I decided I'd just change them completely. And my plan for it was to use as much of the trousers as physically possible in this new piece, and also just make something that fits really well into my wardrobe, so for me that means it's going to be frilly and clowncore inspired. The first step of this project was to cut the trousers back into pieces. I knew I needed wider pieces for the front and back panels, so I kept the side seams intact, but all the other seams I cut apart. Next, I cut out all the pieces I would need using a pattern I already had in my collection. Like with all my patterns, this is a tracing of a piece of clothing I already own and therefore know I like the fit of, so I knew using it would result in a wearable piece of clothing. I didn't quite have the width I needed to cut out the sleeves in one piece, so I added extra length to each of them. I could have cut these pieces out down the legs, but I really wanted to have that seam detail over the top of the shoulder, as I felt like it really went with the seam detail on the front and the back, and it just made everything look a little bit more cohesive. After that, I then sewed the base shirt all together. I started out with the shoulders, then added on the sleeves, then did the side seams, and then finally hemmed the sleeves to make everything a little cleaner. I think I've been actually getting pretty good at sewing the base level of clothing. They've just been coming out naturally better than they did in the past, and I'm very happy with them. It's nice to feel like I've improved my sewing skills, even if they are still on the very basic side. At this point, I did feel like the fabric looked a little bit odd. It kind of looked like it was upside down, even though the print goes both ways. Maybe it's just because I'm so used to looking at it the other way up, but it didn't start to look normal again until I started adding the extra pieces onto it, which was part of the next step, which was adding on the frilly collar. And this piece was made out of the trouser cuffs. I've recently learned how to gather using my machine, so this section was much quicker than it normally is, which just meant the whole piece was quicker overall. It was just a really nice after-work sewing project that wasn't complicated, was very repetitive, and came out really adorable. I feel like I need to do more of these projects where they're just kind of more simple things that I can fit into my everyday routine without exhausting myself. I really wanted to use as much of the trousers as possible in the final piece, so I decided to use those waist ties as a little bow on the front. This also did a good job of making the collar section look more complete, as I personally find frills and bows go together perfectly and make everything look more adorable and cutesy. And for this, it also means that if the collar ever lifts up because of the wind, it will have a complete piece underneath that will make everything look a little bit more professional. Once the collar was attached, I then ironed it down into the placement that I wanted it to. I've never done a collar where I've ironed it flat before. I usually just put bias binding around the edges, but I feel like this looks a little bit better. I really understand why it's more common practice than this type of collar when you have a collar piece. So I feel like I'm definitely going to do more collars like this going forward. The final piece I added was a frill around the bottom of the shirt, and for this I used the waistband plus a little bit of extra fabric from elsewhere on the trousers. If it was still really cold out, I wouldn't do this, as I find this style with this sort of hem is really annoying to wear underneath other clothing. You kind of just get a lumpy look around your stomach if you wear a jumper over the top of it. But it's finally been warming up recently, and I just love the look of frilled hems without anything covering them, so I decided to add one to this piece. Saying that has made me realise I really should sew a hoodie with a frilled edge. That way I can have that detail without the lumpy issues all year round. I do need a green hoodie, so maybe I should do like a green hoodie with like a frilled edge and some like drippy effects on it. If I do end up making that hoodie, I will definitely make a video on it because that's very much my sort of style. Anyways, back to the project. I attached the hem onto the bottom of the trousers, ironed them down so it wouldn't flap up when I'm wearing it, and I was fully done, and I'm finally ready to show you the final result. Overall, I am super happy with this. I feel like it looks so adorable and cute, and it's definitely something that I could wear. The only major issue with it is that the collar doesn't stretch because this fabric is not as stretchy as the pattern piece fabric. So I have had to cut a little gap in the back. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add like a little clasp just to hold it shut at the top, and then you can't really see it. I may also have to finish these edges because I'm not quite sure if this will fray a lot or not. But other than that, I feel like the construction's really nice. It's just obviously not the right sort of fabric to make a t-shirt out of. I also made it a bit longer than a lot of my other shirts. A lot of my shirts are really cropped, but I actually really like this length, especially with these style of trousers that I normally wear. So I feel like this length is probably going to be my next go-to length when making clothing. But with that said, that is it for this video. If you did enjoy it, please give it a like down below, comment what else you'd like me to do, and subscribe as I post a new video every single week, and I'd love to see you again. But until then, bye!